The Senate just released a report. They anticipate over the next 10 years, 100 million jobs displaced. I'm just wondering, where does the stock market, where does investment play into this new future where everybody is thinking like, am I even going to have a job next week, next month, next year? How does the stock market investing play a role in that?
People say AI is going to just pick all the stock trades and investments. Number one, not true, because AI can't see forward-looking events because they haven't happened yet. All of this stuff cannot necessarily be predicted, but here's what AI can do for you.
All right, boys and girls, Jason Brown in the house. Jason Brown is a stock market expert, power options trader, entrepreneur, and author who teaches people just like you how to confidently take control of your financial situation and feel empowered while doing so. And his new book, The 5-Year Millionaire, is out now, and it is the framework that he used to make his first $1 million in just 5 years. Jason, welcome to the program, bro.
Mark, good to be here, man. Good to see you.
You as well. So I want to start with this. AI is basically all I think about. It's all I talk about. And I think a lot of people get kind of trapped in this mindset of, well, this is what has worked for the last 10 years. This is what has worked for the last 20 years. And I'm interested in your perspective. I'm on your website here, and you have this quote. It says, go to college, get a decent job, climb the corporate ladder, then maybe reach millionaire status at retirement. This is what society tells us our whole lives. Why is that wrong now?
Yeah, it's not that it's wrong. It's more so that it's not that accurate, and it's pretty much outdated, right? And so the educational system is, for lack of better terms, lagging behind real world application. You talk about AI, you look at how fast AI is advancing. Look at how long it takes most schools to even teach AI or even teach social media and marketing, and how big that has changed. And so you're finding what's happening now is that people are going to school, they're getting a degree, they can barely get a job, they're coming out with a lot of debt. And that's not a new thing. I think more people are saying there's a different way or a better way. And when you start to learn about how money works, which is also not taught in school, I won't say it's impossible, but just going to school, getting a good job alone is not what takes you to millionaire status. It's about putting that money to work in another vehicle, like a business, putting that money to work, leverage in the stock market, real estate, something else where your money can work harder for you than you can for it. And the stock market is one of the most lowest hanging fruits for people to get involved in a big industry and start to create some wealth. Because when you think about real estate, what happens if your credit score is bad? Right? Stock market doesn't care about your credit score. When you think about starting a business, it's like, well, I got to have capital. Maybe I need a building. I need this, unless you're doing something online, which is a whole different story. But you also need a unique skill set to be a podcaster or a YouTuber. What if you're like, I got a face that was made for radio, or I got a voice that doesn't sound good on a podcast? I can't be an influencer. Stock market doesn't care about any of that. You can hook your caboose up to, the Steve Jobs of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, and you can partner with some of the biggest companies in the world and start to create wealth while you're still going to school or while you're still working your 9-to-5 job. Your money can be working for you during the same time. And so it's more about what is the vehicle that's going to get you there. It's not just school and a job alone. It's what you do with that money. And that's learning something like the stock market.
I think it's essential that we're at least investing something on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis. I think most people have this money in, money out mentality. As a Christian, 10% tithe, 10% long-term investment. Your future self will thank you. So I got to point something out here. I'm really in touch with what's happening with AI. And one of my biggest fears is that people are going to wake up and their income is going to be gone. They're going to get laid off. They're going to be replaced. Salesforce just fired 45% of their customer service staff. Thousands and thousands of people wake up without a job, and now they have to go compete in a very, very challenging job market. And the Senate actually just released a report. They anticipate over the next 10 years, 100 million jobs displaced. That's the U.S. Senate released that report. So I'm just wondering, where does the stock market, where does investment play into this new future where everybody is thinking like, am I even going to have a job next week, next month, next year? How does the stock market investing play a role in that?
So there's this saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, right? And so when you think about back in the day when they were making cars, I'm from Detroit, I'm in the Motor City. You think about when they were making cars, people were physically painting cars, physically putting tires and welding stuff together. And then you kind of had the assembly line come in that sped it up. But then you eventually had robotics painting cars, right? It sprays it faster, more accurately than a human being could do it. And I'm sure everybody was like, these robots are going to take our jobs. You'd look at the grocery store. It used to have a million checkout aisles. Then someone said, oh, let's do self-checkout, right? And everyone was like, these self-checkouts are going to take our jobs. The reality is humans will always be needed, but they'll just be needed in a different capacity. And then there'll also always be humans that are needed to fix the robots, fix the AI, fix the machines. Where does that fall into the line with investing? What you're looking at is a transformation that's happening. And as these transformation happens with robotics, with AI, there are companies like the AMDs of the world, the NVIDIAs that need to make semiconductors and chips and build data centers and store all this data. They need hard drives, they need energy, they need cooling to cool down these data centers. That presents a unique opportunity, not just for investment, but also for jobs. Because I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I'm not the guy that's going to be like, everyone's going to lose their job. There will be new jobs. And if you're willing to get retrained, there will be new opportunity. So that's that side of it. But also there'll be new opportunity for your money. There'll be new opportunity for you to invest. Think about it. We didn't have social media, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago? Because of the internet, because of high speed, here comes, what was it? I forget that pace, MySpace. It was MySpace and Facebook back then, if you can remember back that far. Then come Instagram, right? Then you have the YouTubes of the world. You have all of these apps and platforms that just broke out. Now you have TikTok. And so there'll always be new places for your money to go, which is why I think it's so important to figure out how to have your money work hard for you, then you work hard for it. And not be afraid of these technological changes, but say, what are the new opportunities from a job standpoint? I think equally or more important, what are the new opportunities from an investment standpoint?
I believe that everybody needs to have additional streams of income right now. Need to be working on additional streams of income. And maybe that's in stock investing. Maybe it's not. I don't care. I don't have a dog in the fight. But what I do know is that if you're not upskilling, educating yourself, and building up additional streams of income, you're exposed, my friend, and your wife is counting on you. Your kids are counting on you. Your community is counting on you. Your church is counting on you. I honestly, I think it's kind of selfish not to invest in yourself at this time. You know what I mean? And
absolutely,
it's time. And I don't know exactly what that looks like for every person that's listening here, but you need to have additional streams of income. It's too risky. Jason, you brought up something that I think is really interesting, which is these data centers. And I don't think people understand what's going on here. Like, we're looking at hundreds of billions of dollars of investment going into building these data centers. Meta is building a data center the size of Manhattan in the middle of Louisiana right now. It's called Hyperion. You guys can look it up. There's an estimate that by 2030, there's going to be $6 to $7 trillion invested in these data centers. So here's where it gets interesting, Jason. Where's a good place to park some cash? Where's a good place to get active in the stock market? Where are the opportunities going to be when these companies are spending trillions of dollars in data centers? Where's the money? Where should I be putting my cash?
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point, right? Trillions and billions of dollars going into these data centers. And I was just talking to some of my members last night about this. I said, I know everyone's not a stock investor. It's a big AI channel. So I want to just make it plain and simple. I want people to think about the gold rush. There were people that rushed to California to mine for gold, right? Everybody's excited about the gold rush. But some people said, wait, these people are going to need a place to sleep. So some people rushed and started building houses. Somebody's like, they're working all day. These people are going to need water. So some people set up water bottle shops and water containers. Somebody's like, these people got to eat. Somebody opened up a restaurant, right? Somebody's like, they need picks, shovels, axes, wheelbarrows. Maybe Home Depot was created, right? So think gold rush. It's not just about the thing. It's about all the things around it that are going to be needed to support this rush. And that's what's happening with AI and what's happening with data centers. You think like, wow, they're building this data center. True. Somebody's has to be inking these corporate real estate deals. That could be a place to look in real estate. Once they get the building, they need chips inside that building, right? Semiconductor. So I want you thinking AMD. I want you thinking NVIDIA. I want you thinking Broadcom. That is a place to go and consider parking or investing some cash, because everyone needs chips for all this data and all this information that we're processing. What are they made out of? They're made out of copper, gold. If you look at gold, gold has been on a tear. Gold is used as some of the material in these semiconductors and some of the material for these large lines that they're going to lay to transfer the data. You can look at gold. You can look at the cloud infrastructure. So you're talking about AWS, Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure. You're looking at Oracle Cloud Services. One of the big things that most people might be missing out on is all this new data is being put into the cloud on these servers. What's one of the biggest concerns that companies and consumers should have? It's going to be cybersecurity. So you can start to look at companies like CrowdStrike. That's a company to pay attention to because cybersecurity is going to continue to increase because now we got all these apps accessing your information. Then companies are using it on their phone, their laptops. They got to protect their consumers and their employees. So those are just some of the boomerang effects of AI come into play in different places that you can look to potentially park some cash. And then kind of like we just talked about as well, those are sectors that you could look at. Maybe I should be getting a job or learning how to implement some of this stuff, or be going back to school to become an engineer, or maybe I can become a prompt engineer, as they call it now, with using AI. So it creates equal opportunity both for jobs. If a person's like, I'm not into investing, that's fine. You're investing at some point, you're investing in yourself. But if you're also into making your money work for you, think gold rush and think about all the other things that have to get a piece of the pie for this to come to fruition.
That's a great point. During the gold rush, the people selling the shovels made the most money, right?
Exactly. Shovels, water bottles, food, hotels probably popped up. What about their family coming in to visit them? Like all of this stuff starts to create these micro economies that create opportunity.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. I'm kind of preaching the same thing over here. And by the way, thanks for just dropping about 12 different companies we can be looking at, guys. Do me a favor, guys. Go over to thebrownreport.com. Jason's got a few free downloads there that are going to get you off and started and kind of breaking down this wisdom and the system that Jason leveraged to build up an income that is quite sizable. So go to thebrownreport.com. Sticking on AI, Jason, because it's literally all I talk about all day. It drives my wife crazy. She'll walk up to me at a party or a church, whatever. I am talking about AI.
It's all the rage right now.
It's so fascinating. And, I know there's some people that are afraid that the Terminator is going to come down. It's going to kill everyone. And that is not my fear. My fear is tens of millions of men in particular who just find out that their job they've been doing for the last 20 years is done. Or the parents who have been investing in their kids' college fund for decades realize, oh, college doesn't work anymore. By the way, I don't know if you've seen this stat. The college graduate unemployment rate has increased from 5.8% to 6.6% in just the last 6 months. 15% increase in college graduate unemployment.
Well, you gotta, when you think about college, here's the thing. I went to college. I went to the Mike Gillis School of Business here, Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. You'll never hear me specifically. I never want to knock college because I want to knock how people use college, right? If you just think going to college and getting the piece of paper is the ticket, then you're using college wrong, and you will be part of that unemployment statistic. You will be part of the kids who graduate and you just have student loan debt. You will be part of the parents that say, I spent all this money, sent my kid to school, and they're not even using their degree. I think the real key to college is not necessarily the piece of paper. If I think back to the marketing classes I took 20 years ago, they're all outdated. And so, technology information is going to evolve. But what I can tell you, what I have gotten from college that I still use to this day is the people I met, the networks. I've learned how to interview or do interviews like this because you're interviewing with companies. You learn how to public speak. I'm talking about these soft skills that go with you everywhere. I learned how to do researching for a paper. I learned how to structure the outline for a paper, which is now how I structure my blogs, which is now how I structure my stock market reports, which is now how I do the research for that stuff. So there are some skills that will go with you forever, but you have to focus on more so those skills and not necessarily the piece of paper. And because I have this degree, that's the thing that's going to land me the job. But it can open some doors for you, especially if you're mastering those soft skills that you learn in school. And so it's not, what they teach is going to be outdated in a year, 2 years, maybe by the time you sit through class is outdated. but the skills of how do I process information? How do I get better? How do I adapt? That is the stuff that most college students should be taking with them. And I think that's the biggest thing that they're missing. They're just thinking, I went to this school, I got this piece of paper, who's going to hire me? Wrong way to use school and wrong way to use college. But there'll always be a need for education. Education will never go away. You just hope that it morphs and transitions and catches up with what needs to be taught in this day and age. And of course, if it doesn't, no problem. That's what creates business opportunity for people like you and I. You can teach the AI that they're not teaching. I can teach the financial literacy in the stock market that they're not teaching. So there'll always be a way to fill that gap. And again, always an opportunity for somebody who looks at it with the right mindset.
Yeah, and I think that now is, I totally agree with everything you said. Although I would, any young person who was saying, Mark, I'm thinking about going to college, I'm going to take out $150,000 worth of debt, I would say, hey, maybe it's a cause to pause, because there's other ways that we can learn some of those soft skills. And quite frankly, to your point, getting out of college, having that piece of paper, or that university, that piece of paper, it's different now, because every single person has a PhD in their pocket. Everybody has a PhD in your pocket, and the skills that you're learning are outdated quickly. And quite frankly, I don't know if you'd agree with this statement, but I am of the mindset that I'm going to have to reinvent myself every 2 years for the rest of my professional life. There's no moment where it's like, all right, I got it figured out. I can go buy a house and retire, and it's going to be great. It's reinvention constantly. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think there's two different things going on here. Determining how you want to learn is an important thing to determine, right? If I want to build houses, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go to trade school. If I just want to be a chef or a cook, I'm not going to go to a regular college. I'm going to go to a culinary school. And so I think it's important that you think about what and how you're trying to learn something. To your point, college is not the only way to learn something. The key is learning and figuring out how you're going to implement what you're learning, and whether the piece of paper needs to be behind it or not. It just depends on what you're trying to do. On the other side, like you said, you got to reinvent yourself. I was listening to one of your other interviews, and the guy said, maybe it was you or one of your guests said, I was doing ads back when it was cost per click. And then you were like, but now everyone wants to know, what results are you going to give me? And people are outsourcing the jobs overseas because the business is expensive. I was just listening to that episode. But to that point, everything is always changing. You do have to reinvent yourself. When you first ran Facebook ads or Instagram ads, it's a different season than running it now. When you ran YouTube ads, it was different than running it now. Personal branding is different now than it was 10 years ago. If you think about how we're hiring people, now there's websites like Fiverr and Upwork and Elance. And well, I think Upwork bought Elance, but now we have global access to talent from sitting here at our computer, where we can hire somebody in India, and we have software that can track their screen, make sure they're working on our project and billing us correctly. So if you are not with the times, if you're not with the technology, if you only knew how to hire locally but didn't know how to work with people globally and respect their culture and how they work, you're going to be out of business. So you're right. You do have to continue to reinvent yourself. As you being a big AI guy, one of the things that I'm using AI for, and now people say, well, AI, in stock trading, AI is going to just pick all the stock trades and investments. Number one, not true, because AI can't see forward-looking events because they haven't happened yet. And it's very hard to predict someone flying an airplane into a building, the president slapping tariffs on China. All of this stuff cannot necessarily be predicted. But here's what AI can do for you. It can back test your strategies. It can also calculate your risk and reward. But more importantly, we are now able to get, I call it, corporate level finance reports and research without having thousands of interns and thousands of researchers on our staff. Like you said, we got thousands of researchers in our pocket or on our browser with ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, et cetera. And that just levels the playing field for a regular person who normally didn't have access to this information. And by the way, you can explain it to me like a 5-year-old, and it can break it down like nobody else can.
I actually love that point, Jason, because one of the common complaints that I hear from the community is that, well, AI is going to create this huge wealth gap, right? It's going to be the ultra rich and everyone else is going to be poor, which, by the way, there are going to be some people that make just ungodly amounts of money, but as long as my life is happy and as long as I'm happy and I'm fed and my family, I don't care. You make trillions, zillions of dollars. I don't care as long as my quality of life improves. But the point that you just make, I think, is really important. Now, the average person who knows how to use the right tools and has the right system can compete with a huge battle cruiser of a company because you have a PhD in your pocket. Not only do you have one, but you can create hundreds of AI agents to perform tasks for you, which historically would not have been possible because you're not going to have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to pay for a staff. Are you seeing anyone executing on this at a high level?
So I can't speak about anyone else, but I could tell you some of the things that we're doing. So, for example, I have an AI agent that will go out and give me a morning briefing on everything that happened overnight. I also have an agent that goes out at 4 o'clock exactly because the market closes at 4 o'clock. And I have it bring me a report of stocks that move, important news that came out, breaking news, sentiment on the market. And I can have all this information before CNBC comes on. I can have all this information before Jim Cramer does his stock market show at 6 o'clock. That is super powerful. I can have all this information before some writer at a news desk can put the same information together and email it out to me. And so that's the speed and the power of what we have access to. I'll give you another real world example of what I'm doing with it and what I'm teaching some of my members to do with it. So earnings reports and earnings calls. There could be 5, 10 companies announce earnings in the same day. These calls can go from 1 hour of just announcement, then another 2, 3 hours of taking analyst questions and questions from the board, all this stuff. You can now take that call recording, run it through AI, and just say, what are the headwinds? What are the tailwinds? How did they do compared to analyst estimates? And you can just pull out the entire most important part of that transcript and be up to date in 10 minutes versus listening to something that could take anywhere from 1 to 5 hours. But now you also can get through 5, 10, 20 companies in a 1 hour setting by just listening, or 1 to 2 hours by listening to, having that 10-minute report. So the amount of information you have access to, and most importantly, the speed at which you can get it from is just really changing the game for the average investor. Normally you'd have to call your broker, what happened, or you'd have to sign up for the Wall Street Journal or something. Then you got to hope that they're not biased in their reporting. You can literally go out and get the information direct and then get it interpreted in a way that you can understand it and start to make educated financial decisions. And that is huge, a huge win for the regular guy, for the little guy.
I love this. I love this. So when you're sending out your AI agents, which by the way, guys, that's an AI, it's basically like an extension of you. It's powered by artificial intelligence, but it doesn't require you to go in each morning and say, pick the next news story for me. It's automatically going out and doing that for you. I mean, exactly. You can probably even make trades for you automatically as well, though that's probably a little bit risky. But here's my question, Jason. When you're sending out your AI agents, are you creating them and prompting them to look at reputable news sources? Because like to your point, there could be a lot of biased news sources or crap news out there. I mean, Gemini was recommending people put glue on their pizza to help the cheese stick, right? And because it was using Reddit as a reference. So I'm just wondering, where are the reputable places that you're getting news from and you're sending your AI agents out?
Yeah, so that's funny. Well, that kind of supports our earlier thesis that there will always be a need for humans to trust but verify, right? That this is the right information that AI is bringing back. But yeah, so a couple things that I do for my bot. I train it to use reputable sources. So it looks for CNBC, it looks for Market Watch, it looks for Wall Street Journal, it looks for Bloomberg. That's one source. It also looks for New York Times. So it looks for reputable news sources. But here's what I'll say about investing that might be a little different from other industries. Anything that a publicly traded company does is public information. So they have to report their 10Ks. They have to report if the CEO or the C-suite people bought, sold, any breaking news. They have to file and share it with the public. So it's less likely to get random information because companies have to put out publicly verified information, or they could be sued. There's a whole lot of risk with them putting out incorrect information. So it's very rare that it's coming up with misinformation. Now, when you start to ask it for opinions, yes, it can go out to get Reddit, but I'm only looking for factual data, not opinions. I'm looking for earnings per share. I'm looking for revenue. I'm looking for sales increase, sales drop off. Did they beat on EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization? These are just kind of hard facts, data, and numbers. And then when I say go out and look, I have one that says just go out and look for news. What happened today? Any news that I should be aware of? Again, it's less likely. It's not. I'm not using Facebook as a source to go get fake news. I'm not necessarily using Reddit as a source. Now, what I will use those platforms for is I'll say, how are other people feeling about this news? Now I do want it to go into the Reddits, the Facebook, and see what are people saying as far as comments. What's the sentiment? Are people feeling bearish? Are people feeling depressed about the economy, about the stock market? Are people losing money because they're talking about it in these little silos? And so I think it's more about understanding where you want your agent to go for specific information. And when I wanted to know how people are feeling, I do want it to go to Reddit. I do want it to go to Facebook and go on the forums. When I'm looking for verified data, so to speak, about publicly traded companies, I want to go into the company's website. I want to go on to CNBC, Market Watch, those reputable websites to get verified public data.
Great points. And guys, if you walk away from this conversation with anything, I'm the AI guy, so I would say that we're moving, I believe, into a world where there's going to be two types of people. There's going to be the types of people that understand how to leverage these AI agents for power and for efficiency, and there's going to be people that don't. If you don't know how to use these AI agents, you're not going to be able to compete with people like Jason, who's got his AI minions going out all around the web, helping him achieve his goals in his dreams. You got to have these agents in place, guys. I just don't know how else to say it, but I will say that Jason is incredibly, incredibly generous with his knowledge on YouTube, on his website. And I would encourage you to go to thebrownreport.com. There's a bunch of free resources to get you started, to leverage these AI tools, to leverage these agents, and to get direct access to Jason. He's even got his cell phone number on there, guys. So I don't know anyone does that. But
that actually is, man. You can text me, call me, because we don't run away from talking to people. Like I said, those who also embrace the human side will get ahead.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I think I definitely, I could wax spiritual on this, but people are definitely going to, I think, have a hunger for humanity as the robots take on more and more of our.
If nothing else that COVID taught us is people crave connection. We saw it. Try to get locked in your house for half a year to a year. People wanted connection. They wanted a hug. They wanted touch. They wanted to not just see you over the camera. They wanted to meet in person at events again. And so, as much as there was some bad things with COVID, I think COVID really reminded us that we still need that human side, that human touch. And I think it's going to be the same with AI, no different than robotics and the computer. It's going to be there to help us, not necessarily replace us and not necessarily replace the human connection. My AI agents that go out and get me that information, they come back and make me a better resource for the people. I then create better YouTube videos because I'm informed. I'm able to explain it to you better because I tapped into AI and had to go out and get the information, bring it back to me. And then I put my lens on it and explain it how people need to hear it. And so I think, like you said, those are the people that are going to be the winners in life, those that embrace it and use it to increase the human connection and the human intelligence.
Well said. Well said. Boys and girls, you've been listening to the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Brown. Go to thebrownreport.com right now. Jason, thanks for joining the show.
Mark, thanks for having me.